Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Basel Pod. I'm Sam Basel, joined alongside Jordan Laube. And Jordan, we just finished Week 7 of the 2025 NFL season. We had some pretty crazy results, but as usual, we are going to get into our game of the week, a game where we learn the most, and a game with the most unexpected result. And then after that, we'll get into your updated top 10, just some top performers from Week 7, as well as our picks for every game in Week 8. But before we get into it, Jordan, how you feeling this week?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, Cardinals 5-game lose streak, by combined 13 points is not great. Raiders are not who we thought they were, which is also not great. But other than that, we've had some really, really good football this year. And we're going to get into some of that, obviously, over the course of this episode. But I am really, really happy with where we're at in the season. And it feels like offense is playing better than it has in the past 5 years. Defense has been making big splash plays in ways we haven't really seen. So it feels like the NFL is kind of getting away from, the dink and dunk meta, and teams are extending the ball downfield, which is creating these explosives and is creating opportunities for the defense to capitalize on mistakes.
Yeah, and this is not one of the games that we, that didn't our slate, but I'm very intrigued by what you said by the Raiders are not the team that we thought that they were going to be. Obviously, this past week, they lost 31-0 to the Kansas City Chiefs. A blowout in the NFL, especially a 30-point blowout, is really a sign that something is seriously wrong in this team. Can you kind of give it any thoughts on what level this team might be struggling on, if it's not all levels, and where they didn't hit the metrics that you thought that they would be hitting at this point in the year?
We have to start with coaching staff. And it's not that Pete Carroll isn't a good coach, because he is.
Yeah.
I think the staff that he has built to kind of bring the Raiders back is hitting a lot of early struggles. Chip Kelly, who I think is a good OC, has not called an offense in the NFL in almost a decade. And going from the college game transition to the NFL, there are changes that need to be made with how you call games, how you scheme things up. And it feels like, not that he's one-dimensional, but I don't think, at Ohio State, he had one of the best teams overall in the country, and now he's coming to a roster that has holes on the offensive line, does not have a deep receiving room, has a not-so-great secondary, and their pass rush is non-existent outside of Max Crosby. So he's in a lot of unfamiliar situations that he was the past couple of years at Ohio State. So I think there's some growing pains in his play calling. The rest of the staff, we've talked about Pete Carroll's kid being the offensive line coach, and he's never coached offensive line before. I think that's a major red flag, especially when this offensive line is as raw and inexperienced as it is outside of Colton Miller. Then defensively, like I said, they're just shallow in the secondary. Linebackers, they've kind of patched it together, which is fine because linebacker is one of those positions you can kind of do that with. But besides Devin White having a lot of tackles, this linebacker unit has not been good at all. So when 2 of the 3 components of your defense are not good, and one of your components is only good because of one player, that being Max Crosby, that spells for a lot of disaster that can happen. And we saw that biggest this week. And not only that, but the offensive makeup, not attacking the offensive line. And if I was Spy Tech, the Raiders GM, at 6, I would have taken Genty at 6. I think anyone in the world would have taken Genty, right? Just based on the talent, been okay, we'll figure out the offensive line later and help him throughout the rest of his career, which is fine process. But I did not think the offensive line was going to be nearly as bad as it is right now. And I think the shuffling around of Jackson Powers-Johnson, Jordan Meredith, trying to get Alex Kappa involved, Dylan Parham not being as good as we thought. It's just there's just so many rotating and carousel pieces happening. And then Gino's not as good as he has been the past few years. Brock Bowers has missed most of the season. It's just a total ball of dog shit that has just been rolling and building and building the entire year. And it came to a head against the Chiefs. They had less than 100 total offensive yards. Like, getting blown out and shut out is one thing. Like, you could get shut out and you can move the ball every single drive, and then you get a false start that's a drive killer, or you throw a pick, or you fumble, or you miss a field goal. I don't even think they got past midfield. I have to look at the play-by-play, but I'm pretty sure they did not pass midfield once. And while I look that up, that's just like, something's got to change. Like, whether they make a trade or they sign a free agent, they try to get more depth on the offensive line. Like, there's just so many red flags on this team that you have to mitigate that some way, shape, or form. You can't just keep doing the same thing that they've been doing every week and expect something different, right? Like, this is not how it works in the NFL, you know. Like, and if we look, these are all their drives: 5 plays, 16 yards, punt; 5 plays, 11 yards, punt; 3 plays, 6 yards, punt; 1 play for 6 yards, end of the first half. They had 3 full drives and then 1 play for the first half. Second half, 3 plays, -3 yards, punt; 4 plays, 7 yards, punt; turnover on downs; 4 plays, 4 yards, punt; 1 play, -2 yards, fumble; 3 plays, 9 yards, punt; 1 play, 2 yards. They did not get past midfield. Like,
they got to the Kansas City 46 on their first drive.
Oh, on the first drive? Yeah, because they had the big kick return. Line. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not far. That's not far.
When you get a 37-yard kick return, that's not far. Like, they started at the 38.
Yeah.
And you only get 16 yards?
Yeah.
Like, that's to open the game. Raheem Mostert could not have done a better job on that kick return. Like, move the damn ball, man. Oh my God. It's and I hate talking about a team like that, especially when my cousin's on it. Like, but gotta find a way to get more guys involved. And it doesn't help their top receiving option, not named Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers wants a trade. They try to make Dante Thornton a thing, which I don't blame them for doing because he's an athletic freak. But they took reps away from Jack Besh, and now he's being thrusted into a starting role. Trey Tucker's been the lone bright spot on your offense besides Genty. And Genty I think he only had 6 carries this past game. Like, they didn't even try to establish the run. Like, it was just a total mess. And it's been a total mess the entire season, and it finally came to a head this week. So thank you for the Raiders rant. I wasn't even expecting to do that, but
I mean,
great.
It's just like, you're seeing the scores, you're like, oh my God, they got shut out. Like, I just feel like in the NFL specifically, like, not that shutouts are not uncommon, but like, a shutout is like, that's like, it's a massive like warning sign or like an alarm bell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing you brought up, Chip Kelly. Are you getting a little bit of Chip Kelly deja vu from 2013, like 2016?
I am not, because how he calls the game and how he manages the offense in terms of formation utilization is completely different. He's using a lot more 12 and 13 personnel that he ever used when he first came to the league. And you cannot live in 11 and 10 personnel in today's NFL. It's very difficult to, right? Like, a few teams, it might work like for one season and then maybe works again the following season. But, case in point, like, you look at the Commanders. They were one of the top teams in 11 personnel usage last season, and obviously they had their NFC Championship run. And I know Jaden Daniels has been hurt, but even when JD is on the field this year, the offense has not nearly been as good, and it's because teams know what to expect now out of their 11 personnel packages. So when they go into 21 or they go into 12 or 13, or even 20 personnel with split back packages, they haven't set tendencies and they aren't comfortable enough in it to be confident in it. And then teams know, like, well, they don't run this a lot, so there's only a few things they can run when they do this. That's what happened with Chip Kelly back in 2013, right? Like he was in spread and 11 personnel a lot. Now this year he's been running a lot of 12, a little bit of 21, not that much, but not nearly as much 11 as he was running. And for the listeners at home, we've explained this on the show a few times, but just a refresher, 11 personnel basically means one running back, one tight end, 3 receivers. You take whatever the number is, you take the first digit, that's how many running backs, the second digit, that's how many tight ends. And the vast, vast, vast majority of the time, if you subtract 5 from that number, that gives you the amount of receivers on the field. Obviously, some teams run 6 or 7 offensive linemen on a package, and that's going to skew the numbers. 6. Oh my God, I can't believe I just. No, you're good. But like a lot of teams, typically the most used personnel package in the NFL is 11 personnel, but teams will mix in 12, 13. So 12 would be 1 running back, 2 tight ends. 13's 1 and 3 tight ends. Then you have your 21 and 22 personnel, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, right? Like there's a lot of fun ways to run different personnel packages in football, but in the NFL, those are the 3 most used, or 4 most used is 11, 12, 13, and 21.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into our game of the week. A little bit more of a fun topic.
Yeah.
The geriatric battle of the century between Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco really delivered. It was a fantastic game, 33-31. Both, it felt like a vintage, matchup between these two quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, 249 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, not too great on that column there. But Joe Flacco, 342 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns, no picks, leading to a Bengals 33-31 victory. What can we glean here? I mean, look, obviously Joe Flacco was brought in to, just kind of keep things calm while Burrow is out. But what kind of threat do they pose in this division now if Joe Flacco can keep putting up games like that? Or can he keep putting up games like that, do you think?
I think he can, and I want to walk back something I said at the end of last episode was that, Joe Flacco is not really a needle mover. And the next day I went and watched the Bengals and Packers game, and it's not that he was great or even good in that game, but he showed what he can do really well, which is when his first read is there and he sees it, he's going to rip it right to it, and they'll get yards after that. Like they had a couple of miscues and missed opportunities on that in the Packers game, but it came to full fruition against the Steelers. And I think the thing that I underestimated was that Flacco's played against Mike Tomlin a lot, and Mike Tomlin has not really changed his defensive play calling style. And that is what ended up biting the Steelers in the ass, is that Joe Flacco knew what the Steelers were going to do. He took advantage of that and just force-fed the second best receiver in the NFL, which I wish other quarterbacks can. I hope that they can take away from what Joe Flacco did for Jamar Chase in this game and said, yeah, I'm just going to force feed my number one. We're going to scheme up, and he didn't have a high average depth of target. I think he was only like 7 yards downfield on the average target when he was thrown to. So like, it's not like they were stretching the ball, which they were obviously, but not really through Jamar Chase. Like he had a couple of mid to deep targets in there, but typically everything was within 10 yards. So that was, I think, the biggest piece was getting the ball to him often. I mean, he had 23 of the 44 targets. Over half of Joe Flacco's throws went to Jamar Chase, at least and what's the word I'm looking for? Like supposed to be on target throws, like not throwaways, not batted passes, not spikes, anything like that.
Intentional targets.
Yeah, intentional targets. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word, but intentional targets, over half of them went to Jamar Chase. And he got 161 yards, 16 receptions, and 3.35 yards per route run. Like and they ran a shit ton of routes. Like that's really, really, really good. Then if we want to talk about what Flacco did himself, other than just, the quick dink and dunk and stuff like that, he got rid of the ball quick. He had a 2.27 average time to throw. And the Steelers like to blitz a lot. They blitz, roughly 35 to 40% of the time, especially when they're playing a non-mobile quarterback like Joe Flacco. And I say non-mobile, and he obviously had an awesome read option run for 13 yards to not ice the game, but start to put it out of reach. But because of that quick time to throw, he only took 2 sacks on 17 pressures. He had a 75% adjusted completion rate, and he was able to have 2 big time throws, because once you throw a quick game a lot, defenses are going to start to play shallow and tighter and get closer to the line of scrimmage. And that's going to give you your ability to hit those tight windows over the middle of the defense, or take your deep shot like they did to Andre Yoshavash towards the end of the game. I think it was like a 40-yard bomb or something like that on a post in the middle. Like that's what Joe Flacco does well. And this was a perfect way for him to get into rhythm with this Bengals offense, was take advantage of what the Steelers were giving him and just pick apart where he saw the soft spots in the zones that they were running.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the ground, Chase Brown really got things going for Cincinnati. 11 carries for 108 yards. Did not score, but I mean, he definitely kept the ball moving. So what did you like out of him? And how is this game kind of a breakout for him so far this season? Because he's not, talking about moving the needle. He's not really moved the needle much for Cincinnati up until this past week on the ground.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it has been the offensive line play. Like Chase Brown is someone who at the end of last year thrived because he was able to make one man miss in the backfield and then keep going because the rest of the blocking was there, right? It hasn't really been there this year, and there have been some shuffling pieces on the offensive line. Dylan Fairchild's missed a couple of games. Amarius Mims has had some growing pains at right tackle. So they've had kind of a jumble mess happening on the front. But in this game in particular, Chase Brown was able to make things happen after contact. So before this game, he was averaging 2.73 yards per attempt and 2.28 yards after contact per attempt. Those are not good numbers at all. But in this game, he had 11 carries for 108, like you said. 98 of his 108 yards came after contact, which is an 8.91 yards after contact per attempt, which is ludicrous. That's batshit. And that happened because he had 7 missed tackles forced. If we look coming into this game with those numbers, he's now up to 3.65 yards per attempt, which still isn't good, but that's you can work with that. And 3.14 yards after contact per attempt. That is good. Anything above 3 yards after contact per attempt is good, right? So when you take what he was able to do in this game and forcing missed tackles and creating explosive runs, that's what helped open up this rushing attack. If we look at his 10-plus yard carries before this game, he only had 2 in the first 6 games. He had 3 in this game. And if we look at 15-plus yard carries, I think he was one of the few starting running back. I think he was the only running back with 50 carries or more to not have a 15-yard rush coming into this game, and he had 2 in this one. And one of them was he was running to the left, made someone miss in the backfield, and then sprung it back to the right and had like a 30-something yard game. I think it was like his second or third carry of the game. But that's the Chase Brown we saw last year, was make someone miss in a phone booth, allow your blocks to develop because you force guys into a gap, and then bounce it out and get explosive outside. And I feel like he hasn't been able to do that because once he makes one guy miss, someone else is there to rally right away. Where this game, he had time to let it develop, and we saw what we saw. I mean, this was easily his best game of the year, right, on the ground. And arguably, like, he's had some good games on the ground in the past. This was easily his most efficient.
And we talk about, how great this Bengals offense was, but they scored 17 points in the second quarter, 13 in the fourth. I mean, how much of this was Pittsburgh kind of letting the defense letting this game stay close?
There's a lot of moving pieces as to why this defense was not good Thursday night. It honestly hasn't been good at all this year, right? Like they played some quarterbacks who have not been good this year. They played Justin Fields week 1, and Justin Fields looked like a world beater week 1. He has looked the complete opposite since week 1. They played Sam Darnold and Drake May, both have been very good this year. But then the next 2 games, they played Carson Wentz and Dylan Gabriel, who have not been so good this year, right? So 3 out of the 5 games coming into this one, they played quarterbacks that were not that good. And if we look into what this defense is doing, Mike Tomlin is not that he invented it, but he was the one that made 3 fire zones mainstream, which we've talked about on the show, is 3 guys over the top, 3 in the middle, and you rush 5 guys. And you bring them from different angles. You can bring a nickel off the edge. You can bring a linebacker from the middle. You can bring both edge guys and 3 defensive linemen in the interior. Like, they are very good at that. And they have a really good personnel package to be able to run that with TJ Watt. I know Alex Highsmith's been hurt, but Nick Herbig has been awesome in his place. Cam Hayward's effective. Derek Harmon came back and has been very good. Keanu Benton's taken a step back this year, but like typically has been good in those situations, right? Like they have the guys to run this type of system. But this year, it has not been that good. And I just want to break down some total number. We're not going to go through each quarterback one by one, but we're going to take the aggregate number of what they did and then compare it to what Joe Flacco did, right? So quarterbacks, when the Steelers blitz, and these are all their blitzes, this is not just their 3 fire zone that they use a lot. Quarterbacks against the Steelers blitz, a 63.38% completion rate. They're averaging 105 yards per game against the blitz. They're getting pressured 9.6 times per game. 3 of those are turning into sacks. And the Steelers are converting a 31.25 pressure to sack rate. Like that's good defensively. Like what you want to be doing against quarterbacks. But then when you take the quality of quarterback play into consideration, then it's like, okay, this is the expectation. So how do you do against Joe Flacco, who has had his struggles this year and hasn't looked anything like he did at the end of 2023, right? Like when he hit that second peak, right? And there were even some questionable games in that stretch, but he still played better than he ever had in the past several years. Flacco went 10 to 15, so 66%, so above that average baseline. He had 113 yards against the blitz, which is again above that average baseline. He had an 80% adjusted completion rate, which is again above that baseline that we talked about. And he was sacked. He was only pressured 6 times and sacked once on those blitzes. So pressures dipped by 30%. Sacks dipped by 200%. Or even 300%. I'm doing my math wrong, but 3 sacks to 1 sack, that's a huge drop off. And not almost 10 pressures to 6 pressures is a big drop off. And they weren't getting to him because Flacco was getting rid of the ball quick. And this was the biggest hangup, is that the Steelers didn't change anything that they were doing. It was nothing they were doing wrong with personnel, nothing they were doing wrong with the type of blitzes they were running. They just didn't change how they were doing it. Like in a vacuum, what they were doing was fine, but Mike Tomlin, one of his biggest hangups is that he doesn't adjust, and he didn't adjust in this game. And that's why the second quarter, they ran up the scoreboard and then they did it again in the fourth quarter. And that's why they eventually ended up winning this game, was because Joe Flacco knew what to expect. He took shots when he needed to, and the Steelers just kind of kept doing the same thing. Like they didn't bracket anybody. They didn't crank down the safeties enough when they needed to in short yardage situation. They were missing tackles in the backfield. Like the rush defense is another big piece of this fact. Like this was just passing. We're talking about rush defense is completely different. Like it has not been a good rush defense this year at all.
Absolutely. And so kind of looking ahead, pulling up their schedule right now. I mean, where can we see them kind of make these adjustments on the run game? I mean, they got home against the Packers this week. Then they take on the Colts at home, and then they travel to LA to take on the Chargers. Which of those games? I mean, that's a tough stretch, especially right now, right? And then there's the ultimate litmus test where it's like, after that 3-game stretch, they host the Bengals. So now it's like, not only can we see how they adjust against these other 3 teams, but now we can see where they've improved or have not improved against that same team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, I mean, what would you like to see them do against these 3 teams, if they can do anything at all? Because obviously these are 3 solid offenses, 3 great NFL offenses right now that they're going up against.
Yeah, I think stopping runners at the contact point is going to be the biggest thing for this defense. So if we look at just their raw numbers, right? They're allowing 4.43 yards per attempt, which like isn't bad, but it's definitely not good, right? So they teams have ran against them 157 times and they've gotten 695 yards. 167 of those yards came before contact. They're actually doing a good job of getting to the ball carriers at the line of scrimmage or around there. They're allowing 1.06 yards before contact per attempt. Like that's decent. Like that's solid. It's after contact it becomes a massive issue. They're allowing 3.36 yards after contact per attempt. That's a 2.3 yard difference between what you allowed before and what you're allowing after contact. Like they're not doing a good job of wrapping up guys, driving their feet, putting them in the dirt, and just not letting themselves get run through when they make contact, right? So that's a big piece. And on top of that, it's not only the contact they're making and letting guys run through them, they've missed 32 tackles this year. Like that is very uncharacteristic of a Steelers defense. That's over what, 5 a game? Like, yeah, you're going to have guys miss here and there, but the Steelers are known for their tenacious, aggressive tackling and stopping guys in their tracks when they make contact. That does not spell well for anything that they have done previously before this season. And then if we want to look at just EPA, right? EPA from 2023 to 2024, those 2 seasons, how they did it defensively. They were the 6th best in EPA per play, 5th best in EPA per dropback, and 13th best in EPA per rush. So 2 top 6 numbers and 1 top 14 number. So 2 numbers, elite status, and 1 number above average, like really solid. This year, they've had the 8th worst EPA per play, the 12th worst EPA per dropback, and 11th worst EPA per rush. So all 3 numbers in the mediocre range. And in week 7 specifically, they were the 2nd worst in the EPA per play and 3rd worst in the EPA per rush. Like the analytics, the film, and the advanced metrics all show you that this defense is not where it needs to be. And now you're going to go play the Chargers, who are going to get Omarion Hampton back. Before that, who's the team that you just said they're going to play? The Colts, right? Like,
yeah, Colts, Chargers, and then wait, sorry, let me pull it up again.
There's one more. Packers, Colts, Chargers, all in a row. When Omarion Hampton was healthy, this rushing attack was nasty. Mm-hmm. Colts have the best rushing attack in the league, and we're going to get into them in a second. And the Packers, with like Josh Jacobs, is a damn good running back. And guess what? They don't need to run the ball constantly like they did last year. They have Jordan Love, who can pick apart defenses now pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when they do run, they're hell of efficient with it. So you're playing 3 really tough run offenses in a row, and then you play the Bengals again, who just expose you on the ground. Like this 4-week stretch is going to tell us a lot about the Steelers team and how prepared they actually are to take on some of the best teams in the league. Because this is like they were 4-1 coming into this game, or what was their record coming into this game? Because they're 4-2 now, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they were 4-1.
Yeah, they were 4-1 coming into this game, right? Like, so a lot of people, like all the power rankings had them as a top 10 team, right? Like, and they were being talked about, they're going to run the AFC North again. Like, they're going to be this great team. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I haven't put them in the top 10 once this year for that exact reason. Mm-hmm. I was like, the defense is not where it needs to be. The offense is going to plateau at some point because they have a 41-year-old, 42-year-old quarterback running the show. He's going to regress at one point or another. Like, at some point, we're going to go over the tip of the iceberg and things are going to start to fall apart. And that might have been the catalyst, going against one of the worst offenses in the league. And they ran up 33 points on you. And their run game finally looked successful. And Joe Flacco, who everyone was writing off, including myself coming into this game, had an incredibly efficient game against you. Like, good luck these next 3 to 4 weeks. Like, I just don't see what they can do differently other than just tackling well, not getting predictable, mixing up their coverage calls. But knowing Mike Tomlin, that's not going to happen. It's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get into a game that was played by 2 upcoming Steelers opponents and that is the Colts 38-24 win over the Chargers in LA. Really great game offensively for the Chargers. Justin Herbert, 420 yards, three touchdowns, 2 picks. Again, turnovers, kind of the name of the game for why Indiana was able to win by 14. But also Daniel Jones continues to roll. I mean, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns in the air. Jonathan Taylor, 94 yards for 3 touchdowns on the ground. Indianapolis improves to 6-1. How does this team keep just rolling through this league?
Shane Steichen has done an awesome job at diagnosing defenses, understanding what the defense is trying to do, and then tailoring his offense to take advantage of those weaknesses. And not only that, it's the adjustments to how they're going to combat those weaknesses when they realize it's happening. And that's kind of what has allowed this Colts offense to hit the next level, right? And obviously Daniel Jones has been amazing this year, right? Like out of nowhere, like there were a couple people that said like, he hasn't been given a fair shot. He's been in a bad system. Like it doesn't really tailor well to what he does. But the majority of people, including myself, were like, he just is who he is. And Shane Steichen has been able to mold the offense around his weaknesses and say, hey, we're not going to allow you to be under pressure quickly. We're going to allow you to see the field as best as you can by not putting routes one on top of another. We're going to give a lot of space. We're going to put you on the move. And guess what? We talked about this a couple episodes ago. He played behind one of the worst offensive lines year over year to now playing with one of the best, right? So that in and of itself is going to allow him to play better. But Daniel Jones has responded so well to Steichen's coaching, how the scheme works, and has really taken that next step. And specifically, I want to talk about how well he played over the middle of the field in the short to intermediate area, because he doesn't throw deep a lot, but and especially because they didn't have Alec Pierce this game, but when he does throw deep, he's been better this year than he ever has been. But in that intermediate or short to intermediate range, that 0 to 19 yard range, over the middle of the field, where he historically has struggled, he had nine completions on 11 attempts for 82 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 first downs, and 128.0 quarterback rating. Like he was, and this is a defense that thrives over quarterbacks throwing over the middle. So Steichen was able to leverage an outside run game, a gap run game when they weren't running to the outside, to force the defense to get sideways, which allowed things to open up in the middle in the pass game. And then the rest of the passes were just short, mid to the outsides, and then occasional deep shots to the outsides, right? Like they kept the defense honest, kept them moving side to side, and then once they were moving side to side too much, bang over the middle, let guys get yak and let guys make plays. Like, and that was like this Chargers defense was great coming into this game. Like the rushing, they've been kind of, rushing defense, but passing defense, they've been awesome. I think they were top 5 in EPA coming into this game. And even without Khalil Mack, they've been generating decent amount of pressures. They've been hawking the ball in the secondary, and they just could not stop this Colts offense. And a lot of that was because, yes, Daniel Jones played great, but Jonathan Taylor is, as far as rushing goes, he has been the best running back in the league.
Offensively for the Chargers, you kind of feel like you were telling me that this was kind of a game where we kind of recognize that maybe this offense is not what everyone has kind of talked about it being, or maybe what they expected it to be. So for you, I mean, how do you feel like this offense got kind of exposed against Indianapolis's defense?
I think the Colts, like, one, they already have a good pass rush to begin with, right? And now you're going against an offensive line that just has holes all over the place. Losing Slater for the year was tough. Then losing Alt on top of that was tough. And then you lose both your backup offensive tackles. And then that just allows teams to pick apart the tackles. So then the interior has to help support the outside, which leaves the interior exposed. And that's when you have DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Adeto Adebawore, like, going and just teeing off on this poor offensive line. Like it was just such a bad game for this offensive line. They allowed 27 pressures, and somehow Herbert only took 3 sacks. Like, any other quarterback getting pressured that much, like, most of them are taking maybe 5 to 10 sacks, right? Like, and again, Justin Herbert did not play great. Like, let me just make that abundantly clear now. He had 8 off-target passes. One of them led to an interception. He had 27 coming into this game, right? Like, he did not play well at all, even when you take away those 2 interceptions, right? Which one of them wasn't his fault, right? Shit happens. But the turnover he did had was in the end zone, and he threw it right at the DB who was perfectly in front of the receiver. Like, it was normally Herbert doesn't make mistakes like that, and he did. So even with him mitigating the pressure and mitigating how bad the offensive line was and not having a rushing attack, they had 30 designed rush yards on 13 attempts. Like, and we'll get into the run game in a little bit and why it was so bad. But Herbert did everything he could, and he still made mistakes. Like, just because someone does everything they could doesn't mean you discredit when they make errors. Like, this was his worst game of the year by far, regardless of, 400 plus pass yards, 3 touchdowns, a decent completion rate. Like, when you look at the tape, like, there were a lot of throws that he wish he could have had back. There were probably 21 points that got wiped off the board. He missed 2 end zone shots, and then he threw another pick in the end zone on another drive. Like, this could have been a much closer game if he played as good as he was playing. And at the same time, probably did not play that well because of how bad the offensive line was this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get into the game that surprised us the most. I think this is a pretty obvious one. The Broncos taking down the Giants 33-32. Look, it's not a game that surprised us because, the Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo connection was off. I mean, look, they're a young offense. They played good, and we expect this Giants team to be up and down. There was nothing really about the Broncos that really was stellar aside from the offense. Like, what surprised us the most is how the hell do you go into a fourth quarter up 19-0 and lose 33-32? Just how does that happen?
Yeah, I want to call out something really neat. They honored Demaryius Thomas, one of the great Broncos receivers in their franchise history, and was
Absolutely
one of my favorite players growing up watching football. And I say growing up, he played when I was in middle school and high school, but obviously that's when you're growing up. But was just such a fun receiver to watch. And he passed away at 33 years old. And to score 33 in the fourth quarter to win, it just everything came that's just one of those things you can't explain. That's just that's fate, that's destiny, that's fortune, whatever you want to call it. That's fucking cool. Tragic, sad he passed away 33 years old. And you could feel the spirit of him within the team putting up 33 in the fourth quarter in a massive comeback win, right? So let's put that there where it is. How they came back. And I picked the Giants to win because I said the Broncos offense is not as good as people are saying they are. And this Giants offense looks a lot better since Jackson Dart has taken over. And Malik Neighbors is out. Darius Slayton missed this game. They've had to utilize Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson a lot. So there was ways for the Broncos to stop this offense, and they did in moments, right? But Cam Scatterboo played pretty well. Dart was using his legs. Dart was actually extending the ball downfield and making some really good throws. And there were some circus plays that happened in that stretch too, right? I think there was a pass over the middle. I forget who was intended for. It might have been Bellinger or Wan'Dale Robinson, actually. And it went through Wan'Dale's hands and popped into Theo's, and then he took it 46 yards to the house, right? It was a good throw to begin with, and then a crazy batch of plays happens, and it's an even bigger play, right? So, that's one of those things where it shows up at the box score, but on tape, you're okay, it probably should have been only a 10 to 15 yard game, but obviously football's football. Crazy shit's going to happen, and we're not going to discredit it because of that, right? So Giants offense was doing what they were supposed to do until it wasn't, until they started making mistakes. Brian Dable was not smart with his clock management and play call selection, especially in the last 4 minutes. Jackson Dart, there was I forget if it was a high or low snap, but it was not an accurate snap. His eyes came down, eyes quickly came up. He saw a receiver, didn't see the linebacker, and it gets picked off, right? And that gave the Broncos life. There were just weird plays that, I mean, we talk about tip passes. There was a pass to Cortland Sutton that went through his hands, and Troy Franklin's in the back of the end zone, fully extended, falling out of bounds, reeling it in for a touchdown. Like, that was the play that kicked everything off. And kind of like, again, we talk about fate and destiny and DT being there. Like, that's one of those crazy things. It's just like, the mojo's there, right? Like, and things just happen the way they're supposed to. Then obviously you had the 2 missed extra points that obviously bit them in the ass at the end, losing by 1. And fortunately that kicker has now been cut and may not see another NFL opportunity again, but that's NFL's a business, right? Like, that's how it's going to happen. But in specifically what the Broncos did well is that they just maintained what they were doing and added a few wrinkles into it. They weren't really hitting running backs out of the backfield early in the game. They started doing that more often. They got Evan Ingram into space over the middle of the field where he thrives. He took advantage of that. And the Giants defense kind of just fell asleep. Like, they were like, well, we're up big, like, we're up enough possessions. We're just going to let them think and dunk, force them out of bounds, not take too many risks, not take too many shots. And I think the play that really changed everything, and Brian Burns has been very vocal about it, was, I think it was on that final drive, that first play, they only rushed 3 and they dropped 8 into coverage and they just made an acrobatic catch towards the sideline. And then the next 2 plays, they pushed the ball downfield, got in field goal range, spiked it, and that was it. Like, that's when you want to get aggressive. Like, Bo Nix has struggled this year. Why are you going to give him time and let him see the field and find, like, I get it. Like, yeah, you want to drop 8 and be safe, and on paper it makes sense, but you got to know who you're going against. Like, there's
light him up.
Yeah, light him up. Like, Bo Nix is not good under pressure, especially this year. So why are you going to dial back on pressure? Like, it's just one of those things that's just like, it fundamentally just isn't good decision making. And I think once the Broncos got the momentum on, and I know momentum is a hot topic in sports, and a lot of people think momentum doesn't exist, and I can see that to an extent. But when you play and you're in it, you feel it, and there is a shift. Like, however minor it is, there is a shift, and sometimes that could be enough to put your team over the top, right? So, like, and I know that's like, we're not going to get into any like deep analytics about this game because it was just one of those games that was weird and completely shifted towards the fourth quarter, and there weren't really any schematic changes that happened, but things just started happening for the Broncos and things stopped working for the Giants, and that's how we got to where we were.
Yeah, absolutely. And, speaking of Demaryius Thomas, talking about how, iconic of a player he was, one of the most iconic, like, images from that era of the NFL for me, let me see if I can try and find a picture of it, but the Sports Illustrated cover of Peyton Manning, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, and Wes Welker, where they're all kind of like posing together on the cover. I love that. That's like one of my favorites.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, and obviously we got to talk about the overtime catch from Tebow during Tebow Mania against the Steelers.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's like when I think of Demaryius Thomas, I think of that moment. Like, that was that's one of my favorite plays in NFL history.
Unreal. So yeah, I mean, crazy game. Euphoric for Broncos fans, but I was mainly getting the reactions from the Giants fan side of it, so not as enjoyable. But let's get into our first lightning round of the night. Your updated top 10.
Have to finally bring him in. 49ers at number 10. Despite all the injuries, despite all the disarray, they are finally figuring it out, and they just stifled a good Falcons team. Like, good game from them. Number 9, we have the Seahawks. They continue to do their thing and play really well. Sam Darnold is at the top of this game and did pretty decent against one of the best defenses in the league. Eagles at number 8. They start to make their way up the rankings, or back up the rankings, I should say. I called it on last week's podcast. Vikings run a lot of cover 2, and that's where Jalen Hurts thrives, and he had his best game of the season and probably the best game he's had in the last 3 years against a cover 2 heavy team. Bills, they move up to number 7, but that's because the Chargers unfortunately dropped out of the top 10 for the first time this year. And until that offensive line gets healthy, they're not going to see the top 10 again for some time. The Rams at number 6, big win against the Jaguars in London. Kind of worked, how teams are going to prepare for international games going forward, which we'll talk about that in a second. Number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers had them number 1 last week. They drop all the way down to number 5. Baker Mayfield finally came back down to earth and was just completely sporadic this game. And with Mike Evans being out, that spells a lot of disarray for this offense. Number 4, the Colts, they slowly creep up more and more. Yes, one of the most efficient offenses. Want to see how they do as we get to the midpoint of the season before we put them in the top 3. Number 3, we have the Packers, only 1 loss in the season. And yeah, they had a bad tie with the Cowboys in a game they should have won, but really, really good in all their other wins. Lions at number 2. And number 1, the team that beat the Lions earlier a couple weeks ago, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they played the Raiders, but it was the first shutout in the Andy Reid era. And this offense, they have a 52% scoring drive percentage, which is the highest they've ever been since Mahomes' first full year as a starter, when he was not a record breaker, but had one of the most historic seasons in quarterback history.
You think they've fully shaken off that rough start?
I think so. And a lot of it has to do with the offense. And I know that sounds like a broken record because you could say that for a lot of teams, but once they and with Rashee Rice back, like this offense is just completely different. Now they have someone they can actually hit over the short middle part of the field where Mahomes thrives, right? Oh, and now you have Tyquan Thornton, who has been really good on deep balls this year. And if he's not open, you got Juju, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Isaiah Pacheco, Brashard Smith, Kareem Hunt. Like, they have so many weapons that like are B tier players, but when you put them all together, man, this offense is going to be good for the rest of the season.
Love it. Let's get into some other headlines. Obviously, one of the bigger headlines kind of off the field, very sad, the passing of Doug Martin. Just, obviously he, according to, ESPN, he passed away in police custody early Saturday morning after an incident at a residence in Oakland. That was confirmed on Monday morning, and it seemed like there was they were responding to a call about a break-in early morning hours. Just any thoughts on, Doug Martin as a player, this situation, anything?
I don't want to speculate too much on the situation until we get, all of the details. I'm sure most of the details are already out, but just want to make sure those are confirmed because this is only 2 or 3 days recent. This came up it's
like a day since the headline was confirmed, like 3 days removed from the situation, but
so want to give it a little more time. But Doug Martin they called him the muscle hamster. Was a good running back, had a really good peak for about 3 years in the beginning of his career. I believe he got a second team All-Pro nod, if I'm not mistaken. But really good player.
He actually got a first team All-Pro.
Oh, he got a first team All-Pro?
First team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler.
Wow, good for him. I thought for sure it was a second team. What year was that? Was that 2015? That's what I thought. That was a great year for football, 2015.
Was that Jameson's first year?
Jameis Winston's, yeah.
Jameis.
Yeah, that was Winston's first year. But anyways, really sad to hear. Was loved by Buccaneers players, the community, coaches. Gerald McCoy specifically had a good relationship with him. So it's just really sad to see someone who, someone like Doug to pass away so young. So condolences to the Martin family and to all the lives he touched and all the people that he had a positive impact on their life for.
Yeah, absolutely. Another headline involved with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 24-9 loss to the Detroit Lions. ESPN's Jenna Lane is confirming that Tampa Bay receiver Mike Evans is going to be sidelined for the unspecified long term with a broken collarbone. Todd Bowles confirmed that to the press after the game. Just any thoughts on this Tampa offense that's been rolling, now losing one of its most important targets?
Yeah, I think I'm more sad that he's going to lose that 1K streak because that was one of the coolest, streaks in all of sports to see how, consistent and effective he was year over year. Even if people want to discredit it, doing that year over year is pretty crazy. But in terms of what they lose this year, obviously they lose their number one target. Emeka Egbuka can fill the void in the meantime. Tej Johnson has played really well in the absence of Chris Godwin, so they should be fine long term. However, if he tries to come back quickly, I don't know how effective he's going to be, and I don't know if that's going to spell for, inconsistencies within the offense, because you see that, like you see superstar players try to come back early from injury, and then they can't get into a rhythm because either that player is not 100% and they're not going full speed, or there's just, they haven't been in the offense and haven't been playing it week to week. So the quarterback might be expecting something that they don't do. Like, we see that happen all the time. And it's not that Mike Evans would do that if that happened, but it's happened enough that is cause for concern. So I would rather him, if he could be back like week 16, 17, 18, if the Bucs are definitely going to make playoffs, sit and wait until playoffs start, because him fully healthy and Godwin fully healthy and Egbuka fully healthy, that's a dangerous, dangerous receiving room that no one wants to play going into playoffs.
Absolutely. Some more injury news, this time out of Kansas City. Defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott, he injured his knee in the third quarter of the Chiefs' 31-0 win over the Raiders. It looks like it's now an ACL tear. He's probably going to be out for the season. We talked about how this offense has figured it out. How is this going to affect the defense as the Chiefs look to, they're 4-3 now and they're trying to keep building games over 500, but how is the defense going to be able to do that without a guy like Lott?
He's someone that improved every game, specifically in pass rush, which is what, he was a good run stopper in college and showed flashes of pass rush. So the Chiefs were banking on him to improve his pass rush, and he has. And besides Chris Jones, he's been one of the few to actually be able to get home consistently this year. So losing him is going to be a big blow to the interior. Chris Jones is not going to be able to line up on the edge as much as he has been, just because that interior depth is a little lacking now. But a promising rookie season based on early returns. Sucks it's cut short. I don't know if he's going to be back by week 1 to start next season with the torn ACL, but I hope he is, because he was someone that had really good flashes in college and was looking pretty good throughout his first few weeks as a rookie.
Absolutely. Next headline, Tyler Lockett released from the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, Tennessee off to a pretty rough start. They fired their head coach, and now Lockett requested and has been granted a release from the Titans. Look, I mean, he did not really see the ball that much. He's had 21 targets through 7 games, 10 catches out of those 21 targets. What's next for a guy like Lockett?
I think he's going to try to sign with a contender or a team that could be close to contending. Not that the Eagles need another receiver, but if they wanted to stop, having AJ Brown and Devontae Smith be the only deep threats on the team, Jahan Dotson is that guy, but not consistent enough. Mm-hmm. They could bring in someone like Lockett to relieve some of that pressure. There's a couple of other teams that could use even the Cardinals could use an actual deep threat. Michael Wilson is fine in contested situations, but isn't going to take the top off of defense. So maybe the Cardinals bring in someone like Lockett just to say, hey, get vertical, open up the middle of the field for Marv and for Trey McBride and see what happens. So he'll find a home somewhere. I just don't know where. And he's probably going to want to go to a contender, just based on where he's at this point in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of deal do you think he would get right now? It's probably just like a remainder of the season deal, and then free agency, and then find something again for the long term.
Yeah, just a vet minimum, and hopefully wherever he lands, could probably sign like a 1 or 2 year decent deal. It's veteran receivers go to die in Tennessee. We saw it with D-Hop, we saw it with Julio Jones, Andre Johnson. Like, there's multitude of really, really good receivers who go to Tennessee and just kind of after that. So I'm not sure what he's going to do after this, but I hope he does something, because he was a really fun player in his prime.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final headline, this one's pretty fun. Defensive end Brandon Graham coming out of retirement. This was announced Tuesday morning by the Eagles. Brandon Graham, he has been on the Eagles since 2010. He was a 2-time Super Bowl champion, second-team All-Pro, 2020 Pro Bowler. It's funny because people talk about, I've been seeing a lot of Eagles fans just in my life and on the internet kind of getting a little bit sentimental that obviously the number of Andy Reid drafted and brought in guys continues to dwindle every year. And even though Andy Reid was not on, he was not coaching for either of those Super Bowl winning teams, like those rosters, he had a huge hand in, right? But now it's funny because this might be the first year where the number of Andy Reid guys goes up for the Eagles.
Yeah, so, that's funny.
For him at age 37, I mean, it's a pretty interesting age to come out of retirement. So what about where the Eagles are this year has kind of maybe inspired him or maybe shown that he kind of needs to be back on this team?
I think it's the fact that they need pass rush help, and I think Brandon Graham might be healthier than what he was previously anticipating because he did have an injury towards the end of the 2024 season, came back, played like 30% of the snaps in the Super Bowl, but was pretty effective, and already had his mindset on retiring probably when he got hurt. And his recovery's probably been going well. He probably feels fresh. He obviously hasn't played the first 7 games, so now he's like, okay, like, I feel good. Eagles need help. Let me go and help them out. Like, he's probably only going to play 30 to 40% of the snaps, but they're going to be impactful, especially in the pass rush because they need it. Zadarius Smith obviously retired last week or 2 weeks ago. Nolan Smith, we don't know how much time he's going to miss with his injury. So Jalix Hunt can't really do it by himself. Josh Uche can't do it by himself. And those are more pass rush guys anyways. They're not kind of run fit, run stoppers. Where Brandon Graham, that's kind of been his bread and butter throughout his career. Yes, he can help out in pass rush situations and has been decent in that part of his career. But he's always been a good run stuffer. And I think that's going to be where we see his role come to life in this offense. And yep, they need pass rush help, but I think more so it's that run stopping that he's going to give them to alleviate the pass rush and allow them to expand that way.
Absolutely. And that'll do it for our big headlines. And let's get into our final lightning round of the night. And we're picking every game in week 8. Let's start off with Thursday, the Minnesota Vikings taking on the LA Chargers. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Chargers on this. I think they bounce back. Carson Wentz is projected to start again, and it seems like Aaron Jones might be ready to play, but I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome the Chargers offense unless the pass rush can get home as much as the Colts just did.
Yep. And then moving into the I'm going to take the Chargers as well. Moving into the Sunday slate, we've got the most miserable team on planet Earth, the New York Jets, heading to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Let the misery continue. I'm going to go Bengals here.
I'll go Bengals too, but I think it might be a fun first start for Tyrod Taylor in God knows how many years. He's finally getting an actual start and looks like he'll be the starter for the rest of the year unless something changes.
I really can't stand that you said that.
I know. Isn't that sad?
Don't give me first half hope.
I won't. Bengals
I'd
win
love to
this
see
one.
a fun game from Tyrod Taylor, but that's not me saying that's something against Tyrod Taylor, but it's just like I've seen too many games so far this year where after that Tampa Bay game, I'm tapped out.
Yep. Oh, I hear you on that one. That should have been a win.
Dolphins Falcons. I got Falcons.
Yeah, I'll take the Falcons on this one. It's just the Dolphins are in such disarray.
Yeah, Browns Pats. Oh my God, give me the Pats, I guess.
Yeah, I'll take the Pats, but I think this might be a little closer than we thought, especially with how good the Browns defense is.
Giants Eagles. Can the Giants do it again after their crazy Thursday night football game a couple weeks back? This is a pretty quick game for a rematch. I always find it interesting when the NFL does this. Like they only give teams 2 weeks before they see each other again.
It's because they're implementing AI to help make their schedules.
Well,
we can have an AI conversation another time, but
yeah. It won't be fun for the listeners.
No, it will not be.
But we're not using AI. We're using our brains to pick this game. So I'm going to use my brain and go with the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Eagles win in a rematch. And it seemed like they figured it out last week. We'll see if they figure it out against the Giants second time around. We'll see.
Bills Panthers. Bills coming off the bye. I think they're going to be fresh. They're going to go up against a Panthers team that just beat the Jets. But I think I'm going to go Buffalo here.
I'll go Bills too. And even if Bryce Young was healthy, because it looks like he's going to miss this game, I still would take the Bills in a game like this. But silver lining, Bills' run defense is horrible. Panthers' rush offense has been awesome lately.
Yeah, so that
So
could
maybe
be
that might be the difference. Yeah.
Bears, Ravens also coming off the bye last week. Who you got here?
I'll take. It is tough. Lamar should be back for this game, but I'm going to take the Bears, just because the Ravens' pass defense is just not where it needs to be, and the Bears have just gotten better and better and better in their passing attack every game. And Caleb Williams still making mistakes. If he can cut off half the mistakes he makes, they could probably put up 30 to 40 on this team.
Yeah, struggles will continue for Baltimore. I will take the Bears. Niners, Texans, Niners.
Yeah, I have to take the Niners, but this is going to be one of those games the Texans are going to somehow squeeze out and win, because it's what the Texans do. When you expect them to win, they lose. When you expect them to lose, they win.
Bucks, Saints. Could the Saints play this one close with Mike Evans out?
No. No. It'll be one of those. It'll be like a 12 or 13 point win, but it's going to be a Bucks controlled game for most of it.
Yep. All right, let's go Bucks here. Cowboys, Broncos. I'm going to go Denver.
I'm going Cowboys here. Much more explosive offense than the Giants were, and Broncos offense could have moved the ball against the Giants defense. I know the Cowboys defense is worse, but I think the offense is, we're looking at one of the best offenses in the league right now.
Mm-hmm. Titans, Colts. I mean, come on.
Colts.
Yeah. Packers, Steelers. Here's the interesting one.
I'm going to go Packers.
Yeah, go Pack, go, baby. Let's go Packers.
At Acrisure Stadium.
What?
At Acrisure Stadium. Yeah, not Heinz Field. I know it hasn't been Heinz Field for a while, but still not used to it.
And then Commanders, Chiefs. I think I'm going to go Chiefs. Chiefs are here on Monday Night Football.
I'll go Chiefs here too. Even if JD is healthy for this game, I'm still going Chiefs.
I don't know. Sorry, not to go back to talk about Acrisure Stadium again real quick, but did you see the headline about how Big Ben was saying that like that Pitt University football should stop playing there?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know how recent it was, but it was coming up on my feed recently. Basically, he was like, I think he had a pretty good point, but like I don't know. I'm kind of anti like building new stadiums just to build new stadiums. You know what I mean? Like I think we just as a society need to build stadiums like way more out of like absolute necessity. But basically what he was saying is that he thinks that the Pitt Panthers should be playing in their own stadium that's closer to campus, because they're just not drawing the crowds that like a Steelers, like even when they're good, they're not going to fill out Acrisure Stadium.
No,
it's an NFL stadium. You know what I mean? Same thing with like Temple at Lincoln Financial, right? Like that makes sense. So he's saying that like if they build a stadium on campus that fits their like attendance needs, the crowds would be louder, they'd be more intense. Students could walk to the stadium from their dorms or whatever. They don't have to go like across the city to go see the games. And then I think a lot of players don't like it because they feel like the field is not in good condition the next, like if there's a Pitt game and then a Steelers game the next day. So good points. I don't know. Well,
yeah, do they alternate schedules? Because I know like some colleges, like if they share it with an NFL team, like if one's home, the other one's away for that week. I don't know if that's the same for Pitt, but even so, like it would make sense. But I also see the point of, instead of, the field getting like, let's say like it gets 14 to 20 days to kind of recure itself and they can patch holes where they need to. If it's getting used every week, that's just constant wear and tear. So I can see where he's coming from that perspective. And at the same time, we have plenty of stadiums all around the country, and we're just going to keep building new stadiums, to your point. Like, I don't think that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Like, but culture-wise, I could also see that happening.
Actually, so there are like 3 weekends in a row where Pitt, not in a row, but there are 3 upcoming weekends I can see right now on their schedule that there's going to be a Pitt game and then a Steelers game.
Oh, gross.
So this weekend, Pitt hosts NC State. And then the next day, Packers Steelers for Sunday Night Football. Then November 15th, Pitt hosts Notre Dame, and that's the day after Steelers host the Bengals. And then on November 29th, Pittsburgh hosts Miami. And then the next day, Bills Steelers.
Oh, God.
So that's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah, that's unsustainable.
Yeah, some little extra stadium talk for a city that neither of us live near. But it's just a very interesting headline that
it's a fun city. City. Oh, have you watched
so bad?
Oh my, have you watched The Pit?
No, I have not.
Oh my God. If you want, like, for the listeners at home who have not seen The Pit, I highly recommend it. It's not your stereotypical medical show like Grey's Anatomy or something like that. Like, it is, like, I've talked to other nurses, and I'm going to sound super pompous when I say this, but doctors, like, but they're like, no, like, it's pretty realistic about what it's like. But essentially it's, for not to spoil anything, but it's 15 episodes for the first season, and each episode is an hour of their shift. And it is like,
like 24.
Yeah, like 24. Yeah, exactly. But it is so well done, like minimal exposition, which, like, I can't stand in TV shows when they just like over explain things instead of just showing us. Like, very minimal exposition, constant action. You get some breathing room here and there, and you just really connect with the characters, even the ones you don't like. Like, it is such a well done show. And here's the kicker: they're dropping a season every year instead of every 2 years. So that's a nice shift in
who'd have thought?
the cinema TV show paradigm that we have going on. I mean, now with the writer's strikes over and COVID's out of the way, and this show's not reliant on CGI as far as I'm concerned. So, like, that helps because almost every show is CGI, not CGI generated, but like reliant at this point. Like, that's why Stranger Things has taken 3 years in between seasons. Like, there's so much CGI in that show, and it takes time to have it look as good as it does. You know, like, not to get off tangent, but you know, The Pit, awesome show. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on HBO. So damn good.
Yeah. Not sponsored, by the way. We just
not sponsored.
Ripped that off the cuff. But HBO did just increase their subscription prices.
Ooh.
So there's a little bit more money going around. I know they're about to get bought by somebody. So, you know, if you got some extra budget, maybe sponsor us, HBO.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this episode of the Basel Pod. As always, make sure you follow us on all of our House Enterprise social media channels, which you can see on the ticker below. Make sure you follow myself at Samwan2878 on X. Make sure you follow Jordan Laube, FB. Jordan's continuing to do these fantastic football film breakdowns. Jordan, have you decided what you're going to be doing this week? Could you give a little preview?
Yeah, for the listeners at home, I have started doing polls and letting teams let the people decide what we're going to do. So last week, they decided on the Falcons defense versus the Bills offense. That was a fun breakdown. Did that with a colleague of mine, Matt St. Jean. That's on the YouTube, 2 hours worth of breakdown, where I'm going to do much better of keeping it much shorter. But the three that are up for vote this week are the 49ers rushing attack versus that same Falcons defense, Bengals rush attack, which we talked about against the Steelers, and the Colts rush attack against the Chargers. Right now, the Colts rush attack is leading by a singular vote. So if you are at home listening to this podcast, hop over to my Instagram. I doubt it's still going to be up by the time you get to it, but if you want to, give your input, feel free to DM me. It looks like it's going to end up being the Colts. But again, we will see in the morning what it looks like. And that will actually go live before Thursday night this week. That's the plan, is I'll film it. This is Tuesday night we're recording. I'm planning on doing that tomorrow night on Wednesdays. This way it's posted before Thursday night and it's out of everyone's brains.
Fantastic. Yeah, so a lot of great football stuff on the house. A lot of great college basketball stuff coming up. Make sure you tune into Wednesday night, depending on when this comes out. Or you can still see it next day, even when it's not live. The Football House, our college football pick'em show with myself, Will Tondo, Jake Zimmer, and Cole Hughes. And whatever really floats your boat, we're probably talking about it at houseenterprise.com. We haven't talked much about the Pit before tonight, but if you want to have us talk more about the Pit, we'll do it. But for Jordan Laube, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the Basel Pod, and we'll see you guys next time.